So I'm here with my younger daughter's family now, and you remember the "You Are Right" session that we had with Phoenix. So Phoenix is not she's not here right now, but just enjoying time being with her, and she's of course 2 months older. So in 2 months is a long time for a kid. They just grow so much every day. So it's been a lot of fun. But one of the things she enjoys are video games. So my son-in-law has this Xbox, and they have beautiful graphics and amazing sound and this huge TV, and it's like a joy to see how beautifully the animation is done on these video games these days, whether it's PS3 or Xbox or what have you. It's just incredible level of detail and the amount of attention to detail that has gone into these graphics. It's just mind-boggling, mind-boggling. It's so beautiful. So, but one of the common themes मैंने notice किया in all of these video games, whoever the most of them, there is of course there's a challenge. There's a hero. There's a protagonist, the hero of the game, which you represent as the player of the game. And then you enter this virtual world, the reality of that video game. And yeah, let me see if mic volume we can increase audio.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Pandiji cannot hear.
Fine. Yeah, he is not able to hear fully. Are you able to hear properly? Proper volume?
I can hear. What about
Okay, fine.
Anamika?
It's a little low. Okay. ठीक है. No, I'll try to speak a little louder. Okay, so the graphics are beautiful. You enter this virtual world, right? The world is completely different. It's a created imaginary world with so much attention to detail to make it as close to reality as possible. And then of course the the player, the hero, the protagonist has a challenge of different games have different challenges. Where as they um, as they go into the game, the challenges become harder and harder, and they get some more powers, and they do all this. Um, but the one common theme in all of these games, or most of these games, is that it is a divided world. It's a world consisting of good and bad. Whether you look at PUBG or all these, so many of these battleground and this and that, the world is divided into good and bad, and it's a clear distinction between good and bad. And with most of the games, you are the good guy, and the whole world is the bad guy, and your job once you enter this world is to destroy the bad and let the good win. I mean, this is the typical framework of this game. So, and of course, and this is not a small number of people. Millions of kids today are playing video games. Millions of kids all over the world are playing video games to a point where some of them are extremely addicted to it, and all kinds of, which is a whole other set of problems when kids get too addicted to the games. and you need to address that as well. But even for the ones who are not addicted and they're playing maybe a reasonable amount of time, which is part of their entertainment, and they're playing and all that, which is okay. But even within that, what are these games reinforcing? What are they teaching? What are they bringing out? What are they? And actually, it is a reflection. See, movies, all of these, ultimately, it's a two-way street between reality and film, let's say, or reality and video games. You have reality on one side and you have the game on the other side. And the game reflects the reality. The game actually so the game reflects reality on one side, that we do live in a divided world. हमारी दुनिया भी अच्छा और बुरा, पसंद नापसंद, सच्चा झूठा, etc. ये द्वैत, जो dual world, I and the other, mine versus yours, black versus white, right versus wrong, good and evil, all that. ये डिवाइडेड वर्ल्ड में जो हम जी रहे हैं, तो एक तरफ से ये वीडियो गेम उसको रिफ्लेक्ट करती है. They only capture what you see in the real world and try to imitate and mimic it in the game. तो एक तरफ से ये सच है, और दूसरा ये भी है कि these games, especially given the scale, the massive scale and the number of kids and the number of hours and hours and hours, I think if you multiply the number of people who play video games by the hours, you'll have a astronomically large number of people hours that of human attention, of human awareness, that energy of awareness is being channeled in this particular field. So, and not even counting all the developers and the artists and the animation and the game creators and all the companies like Sony and Microsoft or whoever, all the big players. There are thousands and thousands of people who are doing nothing but creating games. Then there are thousands and thousands of people who are blogging about it, influencers in the game world. They write about the game, they review the game, they give hints, they give all this. So if you look at all the energy and all the time that's being spent, it's a huge, huge amount of human endeavor and human knowledge and human time and human attention is being spent on this field. So the flip side of these games is that on one side we have the kids who are playing the games, and Anamika, you may want to just Google, the amount of hours, average number of hours that kids spend on video games or people spend on video games, and how many people play video games. So दोनों मिला के एक number आएगा. I mean, I've heard of people who get so addicted that this is the extreme, but they will not sleep, they will lose sleep, they will not eat, and literally land up in emergency rooms because they're completely, not paying attention to the needs of their body and are just completely absorbed by the game. It's living in an alternate reality. The flip side of it is कि ये जो games है उसकी influence reality पे भी हो रही है. Because on one side the game reflects reality, and on the other side the game influences reality. Because the more this good bad idea is shown on, it is the way universe is, the way reality is right now. But the more they see it, the more you are likely to use those labels even in your real life. So, if you are continuously sensitized to that some people are bad and some people are good, and that the world is divided like that, You read something in the news, your immediate reaction is going to be to do that dividing. This person is good. This right. Yeah, some statistics from Anand. So it's a huge number. So if 2.5 billion people, that's one third of the world's population, right? About 7 billion of us. So quite a huge number of us are spending time in video games. So um, so you're going to be influenced by that, and automatically going to divide your life and your experience and your worldview in terms of good and evil, right and wrong, and be very opinionated about it, and that I'm absolutely right, this person is absolutely wrong. But the other part of it which worries me even more, or which concerns me even more, is that automatically it is associated with violence. So the destruction of evil is not only encouraged, there's only one way to do it. There's only one way to address evil in the video game. What is the one way? Blast the hell out of it. Any monster that you see, उसको उड़ा दो बस, बंदूक से, तलवार से, या बम से, या कुछ भी तरीके से, बस डिस्ट्रॉय, आई मीन फिजिकली जस्ट उसके टुकड़े टुकड़े कर डालो, make blow it up into pieces. That is the only response that is allowed in the game, and that's the only response which is encouraged in the game. If you see evil, just blow it up. So if we want to create a world in which we are operating out of how to bring that to this, so this question of how to bring that to this, I just wanted to see what we thought about how that can apply in this world. When we are talking about this, normally we are talking about our current situation or whatever we are doing. But if this equals video games, then how to bring that to this, where this is video games? So so one approach, of course, which is you know, if we were to take the same approach that video games take, what would we do to video games? We identify video games as being good or bad? Bad. We identify video games as being bad. So if we were to operate on the same principles as video games operate on, then what would we do? Our action would be destroy the video. उसको उड़ाई दो, उसको ही उड़ा दो, सारे वीडियो गेम्स उड़ा दो. ये कंपनियां जो वीडियो गेम बनाती है उनको बैन कर दो, गेम बैन कर दो, इक्विपमेंट बैन कर दो, Xbox, PS2 सब बैन कर दो. So just like, in some countries with all this, ban music. Similarly, ban video games. That would be the video game approach to video games. उड़ा दो, जिधर Xbox दिखा उड़ा दो. लॉस कर दो, इलीगल कर दो, पुलिस को सौंप दो, बच्चों को भी बैन कर दो. Adults, nobody should watch video games, nobody should play video. This is a bad thing, bad. So this would be the video game approach to the issue of video games. But और थोड़ा माइल्डर अप्रोच करेंगे तो okay, yeah, so yeah, I mean, you just missed the unit test. I'm saying people have lost relationships, people have lost families, people have lost lives because of this kind of addiction. So, oh, it's very bad, very bad, very bad. उसको हटा ही दो. That is the video game approach. Ban कर दो, गोली से उड़ा दो सारे. Um, a slightly milder approach would be, okay, let's not kill everything and ban everything. Let's try and regulate it. Regulate करते हैं इसको. So this is the approach parents take. Okay, you can only play for 1 hour. You can only play in the evening. You can only play if you're, uh, yeah, you can only play on weekends, or you can only play after your exams, or you can only, and or in the games you can only play this game, but not this game. This game is too violent. This game, वो ऐसा सब regulation करना पड़ेगा. And even within the game industry also, in fact there are some moves in that direction where games जैसे movies में भी rating आती है ना, adults या general PG 13, वैसे the game industry has also come up with certain uh, ratings for the game, that this is appropriate for children or not, the violence level is too much or whatever. So um, so this is, that's a little bit, but my question is how to bring that to this. What would we do operating from the level of oneness, operating from the level of consciousness, operating from the level of who we really are, which which accepts and open to all energies and all beings and all people. What would that approach be? So that was the question I wanted to raise, and see, what do you think? How to bring that to this?
Are you asking us that how the video game should be made? Are you asking us that question? The
Yeah,
storyline and all that. Is that what you're asking us?
yeah, that is one. That is one question.
You're buffering.
So to be more specific, what would a video game, what would that game be like? And what would one such game be like?
That game could
Yeah,
be like something you made
creativity.
for like Gopal Gita sort of a thing. We could make games like that.
Gopal Gita, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the
Something on those lines we could bring philosophy, little action, and how then a little higher way of thinking.
yeah, Gopal Gita would be a good, you know, like an entertainment or a short film or movies or stuff. But a video game is different. Video game is interactive.
Yeah, so we'd make that interactive.
नहीं,
So how
मुझे
do you
ऐसा
make
लगता
Gopal?
है कि
हाँ,
वीडियो गेम्स
हाँ,
के बजाय बच्चों को मैदानी खेल जो बाहर के जो गेम होते हैं ना, आउटडोर गेम्स, उनके तरफ रुचि पैदा करना होगा. दे मस्ट बी डेवलप दैट इंटरेस्ट टू हैव प्ले एंड फन आउटसाइड द हाउस rather than inside, what we used to do in our times, like that.
right, right.
More and more children are confined to their house, more and more they are inclined to this. They feel
Correct, correct.
something adventurous in doing that destruction. If they play outside, I have seen many children who love playing outside, who love playing outdoor games. They hardly engage in these video games. Never.
Correct, correct, correct. Yeah, that is absolutely, absolutely valid. So one approach is to encourage to discourage video games itself, the need itself for video games need not be there. If you are so engaged with this reality, you're exploring, you're learning, you're enjoying, playing with all of this, then yeah, then your interest in that video game is nothing but another reality, right? It's a virtual reality. It's a sort of filtered down version of reality. So अगर ये reality में आपका इतना interest है और आपका इतना time जा रहा है, energy जा रही है और आनंद मिल रहा है उसमें से, then you are less likely to want to worry about these artificial reality or virtual reality, which is the video game. Agreed. That is one very important approach. But supposing, see, technology hai, virtual reality is getting more and more real in terms of how that experience is is actually seen. Like with the headset and the headphones and this and that, you almost feel as if you are in that world. And there are certain advantages to technology, to this technology also. You can think of it like a simulation. Simulation यानी आप experiment कर सकते हो, देख सकते हो कि ऐसा करने से क्या होता है. Because the reality is so close to the actual reality that in a good simulation you may be able to understand certain things without having to go through the actual process. So for example, you understand what a simulation is. Simulation yani abhi, supposing you are designing airplanes. So every time putting the airplane in the sky to test certain features and all that is not possible. So you model the whole thing. You model it on a computer or you make a wind tunnel और उसमें छोटा सा एक airplane डाल के you do all these experiments and you come to know about so many things without having to actually do it. So simulation has a place and has a role. And technology का ये है कि it has a life of its own. It has an energy of its own, and whether we like it or not and whether we fight it or not, technology keeps on moving forward. And the challenge is always कि ये जो technology आ रही है उसको हम how can we make it aligned with us and how can we make it useful for us, right? So what you're saying is true कि एक तरफ से ये जो reality है उसमें इतने आप रचे पचे रहो कि आपको ये virtual reality की कोई जरूरत ही ना पड़े. But given that it is already there, this technology is already there, we are able to create better and better worlds. Imagine, for example, if we had such a beautiful, complex simulation model कि हम पूरा ये वर्ल्ड वॉर जो है उसका क्या अंजाम होता, we could simulate it inside a game. For example, then the same result of what would have happened in World War II, we could have learned the lesson of the history of World War II without having to go through World War II. So without having lost the millions of lives, we may have been able to come up with, this is what happens when a certain country or certain group tries to take over everything. So what I'm saying is that, yes, giving up this technology itself may be one approach, or at least minimizing it, that people are balancing between outdoors and indoors and all that. But after that, if you were to create a game, create a virtual reality game, a video game, which is consistent with oneness, then what would such a game be like? That is a question I wanted to ask. So I mean, everyone may have some ideas about what, but I just was thinking, I was chatting with my daughter after seeing Phoenix play these video games. इसमें zoom dam चल रहा है. This little, so I said, how can we create a game? So the elements of the game are that it has to be a challenge. It has to be interesting. It has to have action for engaging kids. So my thought was, I mean, this is just one possibility. I'm sure there are other games that we can think of and come up with, but so you need एक तो ये गेम में क्या होता है, challenges होते हैं, physical challenges. You have to go from one place to the other, and it's a challenge to jump, and it's a challenge to cross some river or cross these rocks and whatever. And then you encounter these creatures, monster है या animal है या कुछ है जो सामने आता है, which is in the way, and you cannot go further. And you need certain powers to conquer this particular adversary. So through some way you get some powers, like you get some new weapons or new things and new tools, and somehow you are able to destroy that creature, and then go to the next level and the next level, like that. So what if the in the game the only option in the game is you kill that creature. That's it. That's the only option. What if you had a game in which you had the option to make friends with that creature in the game?
You could also forgive.
You could forgive that forgive that creature. You could make friends with that creature. There could be many more ways to interact with that monster. That first of all, look at the monster. You look at the monster. In the video game, things are happening so fast, and the assumption is so fast that ये monster यानी बुरा ही बंदा है. बुरा मतलब बिल्कुल evil है. उसको सोचे बिना समझे बिना उसको बस उड़ा दो. What if you had a time to actually look at the monster? Maybe you would like the monster. maybe you could make friends with the monster. Maybe you could interact
Maybe
with.
we could send darts of love to the monster, and the monster transforms.
Correct. The monster himself, instead of trying to kill you and destroy you, also wants to know, is curious about you. So instead of getting the normal treasures in the video game, कोई हथियार मिल जाता है, कोई some weapon or some new gun or something. Instead of that, what if you were able to get other gems, other instruments, gems of okay, now I have a better ability to listen. I have a better ability to see. I have a better ability to empathize. I have a better ability to have compassion. I have a better ability to speak, to communicate, patience, tolerance, all these kind of, instead of the weapons being guns and bombs and this and that, as you progress in the game, you get points and qualities on the compassion meter. There's a love meter, there's a compassion meter, there's a listening meter, there's a speaking meter, there is a healing meter, and all these meters, you acquire skills and you keep on getting more of those. Now, when you have enough of those, that you can actually win over, not conquer, but win over rather than defeat, winning over the monster, then you are able to actually win over the monster and go to the next level, and then you meet somebody else, and so on. So that instead of every, and this is applicable to life also, right? We are sorry.
One approach can be in a game, 2-3 people, they are fighting for breaking how good I can create for others. Who creates ample of things or ample of food or ample of facilities for others, he will win. That can be another positive approach.
Another, yeah. If you are into doing something, a good deed, kindness for others, you are actually serving others and creating you are not just focused on reaching your goal, but you are focused on how to make it easier for the other creatures who are in the game. And because you are concerned more about that, you progress even faster towards your more treasure, and you win that way, get more points or get more. See, it has to be interactive, and it has to have the same elements that a normal video game has, which is, you get points, you have a winner, some people do better, some people don't do as good, you can become better, you can win better. Next time you play, you may get more points. All that has to be there. And the challenge of moving around in the game and interacting with different folks. So, uh, so a game that is so, and you could actually, whenever the monster comes, they have the information about the monster, that these are their uh, these are their uh, strengths, because they have this special armor or they have the special weapon. तो उसकी जगह में वो मॉन्स्टर बना कैसे, उसके बारे में कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन हो. you know maybe this monster was abused as a child. Now you are dealing with a person who was abused as a child, and that is why this person is a monster, right? So now your approach would be completely different. Rather than you want to just kill that monster, you want to just hug that monster. Embrace that monster.
He can
Transform, exactly. So the game could be of transformation, and the game could be of winning over rather than defeating. There's a big difference between winning over somebody and defeating somebody. Although it looks the same, but when you win somebody over, you still win, but they are not defeated. But when you defeat somebody, you win also in that case, but they're defeated. They're either destroyed or no more physically or emotionally. And so it's a win-lose kind of situation, whereas here the game would be a win-win kind of a thing. And it can be so how to make it fast-paced, because video games have to be fast-paced. It cannot be a long, slow interaction and things like that. But I think somewhere it can be balanced, where it will be fast-paced also, and at the same time, the faster you forgive, the quicker you forgive, the more points you get. The faster you forgive, the quicker you just embrace somebody, the quicker you help them out rather than hesitate, the more points. So that way, the pace of the game can also be matched with what kids want, which is it cannot be a long, boring game where you have to, spend 2 hours trying to have a dialogue with the monster. Aisa nahi. Fatafat. So somebody who, I don't know, anybody who's listening to this, if you are into video games, please create a video game like this.
मुझे तो लगा आप ही बनाओगे एक कि अभी मैं वीडियो गेम बना रहा हूँ. You never know.
I know, you never know. You know me. If I get into a film, I want to make a film. If I get
One
into
night,
a
full
song,
night video game.
one night wala thodi hai ye. This is a
नहीं
big,
तो 10
big
nights. What is Sanjivji doing video game?
video game bana rahe hain. But yeah, right. But don't you think such a video? हाँ.
सिर्फ आपकी आइडिया सुन के ही एनर्जी मिल रही है.
Right.
तो जो नेगेटिविटी है वीडियो गेम्स में, उसके बारे में सोचते तो जो एनर्जी कम होती है या फिर नेगेटिविटी अंदर की बढ़ती है, तो या सिर्फ डिस्कशन से ही पॉजिटिव और अच्छा लग रहा है, तो वैसे होने लग गया तो
और भी अच्छा है. And of course, वीडियो गेम से जो सीखेंगे उसको लाइफ में अप्लाई करना है. तो चलो कोई वीडियो गेम बनाएगा, आप खेलेंगे, करेंगे, तब तक इंतजार मत करो. ये जो वीडियो गेम हम खेल रहे हैं कॉल्ड लाइफ, ये वीडियो गेम में ऑलरेडी यू कैन स्टार्ट प्लेइंग लाइक दैट वीडियो गेम दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. So हमें तो we don't meet real monsters and real devils and we don't meet those. इतना obvious नहीं होता है. लेकिन हर एक की जिंदगी में ऐसे रोल है, right? We have people who we don't get along with. We have people who we think are terrible. Not people, maybe groups of people. They appear like monsters to us. Um, Whatever that group may be, whether it's a religious group or a political group or uh, so yeah, we all are also monsters to somebody. This is also a very good thought, that if there are so many monsters in the world, then we must also be one of them. To someone, we are the monster. Who knows? Who knows, right? So no matter what great things we may be thinking or doing, from somebody's perspective, that may be completely terrible. Uh, so to understand, so my point of today is, okay, ये वीडियो गेम बने या ना बने, बनाएगा कोई अच्छा है. मैंने तो ये आइडिया दे दिया यूनिवर्स को कि भाई ऐसी वीडियो गेम बनाओ. And I was actually doing a search and I found there's one game called The Journey, which comes little bit in this direction what I'm speaking of. So you can look it up online, The Journey. So in that, this person is in a very desert, semi-desolate place, and a lot of she this she interacts with objects and people with a different energy and a different magical qualities to it. And she's going on this journey through the desert. ज़्यादा detail नहीं पता चला, but it's a PS3 game. But at least I knew that it is not going to the depth and extent that I am talking about. Um, so your weapons are offering a shoulder for somebody to cry on. Also grief, like, just like in real life, we we lose people, we lose so many things. So when that happens in the game, depending on whether you're able to grieve that loss, feel that loss, and wait and spend some time grieving, that can also be one more element, processing and being able to pause in that game and say, okay, I've lost this person in my life. And depending on, so if you don't grieve at all, you lose points, because you lose something when you don't experience that sorrow that you are feeling. And if you get too caught up in the grief that you are going to, give up on your life itself, that is also, you lose points. So an optimal amount of grieving time. And these so-called monsters can, once they become your friends, some of them become close friends, and they are walking side by side with you as you move forward in your journey. And some of the others are kind of more distant, but they're still sort of with you. And just as in life, I mean, we have few people who are our companions very closely and much more part of our game and our challenges. And there are other friends which we see rarely and which we see sometimes, and they are distant. So again, as you go through this new video game, the new video game would have this element of creating an army, not an army, but a circle of friends who move with you. The same monsters that you met are now part of your circle of friends. Yeah, Anand, good idea. He's saying, meditation, chakra, etc. can be a power of truth inside the game, can be used to vitality. Exactly. Yeah, supposing you admit one truth about yourself in the game, maybe you get more powers in the game, right? So truth can be one energy that you develop, and and meditation. I mean, there are actually sensors. Actually, I have one game which I had got from, which is still there in Kathak, which I had given to the school. So you put these 3 sensors on your fingers, and this is actually already there, where depending on your level of calmness of your thoughts, it actually is able to control things that happen on the screen. So in one of the games which is like that, there are hot air balloons which are just floating across, not hot air, yeah, balloons which are floating across the screen. If you're very calm, they just float across. But if you have any kind of a disturbing thought, the balloon immediately pops on the screen. It just pops. So that technology already exists. So like what Anand is saying, the video game could be hooked up to yourself. So it can be hooked up to your pulse rate, your oxygen level, your mental activity level, and these sensors are there. And depending on whether you are breathing calmly, your pulse rate is even and rhythmic and calm and beautiful. According to that, also your ability to win over the monsters can go up or down based on their meditation levels. Yeah, so this is also there. The technology all exists. I mean, we just have to put it to good use. So very nice. But so your video game to bante banega. I don't know when, who will make. I told Supriya because she's into psychology. She's a psychiatrist. I mean, a psychology counselor. So I'm saying, all the issues that she works with a lot of kids and youth, teenagers especially, all kinds of, where their behavior becomes uncontrollable and unmanageable because they are so disturbed with so many things. So what works in those kind of situations? What kind of listening, what kind of talking? So, and what are the kind of scenarios? So according to that, we can build all these characters in the video game. And Amika playing a video game or what?
I found that journey game.
The Journey. Acha, huh? Is it there on PC? It's only on PlayStation, I think.
It's on Apple.
It's there on Apple? Okay, I'll check it out. We'll check it out and see if it can be used. But my bottom line thought for today is that, well, the video game, who knows when somebody will make like this, I don't know. If they make it well and good, I would love to promote it. I'd love to create it also, or help somebody create it. If anyone listening here wants to do it, I'd love to collaborate and see how to do that. But the lesson that video game can bring to our life, that we can start applying today, right now, going forward. All these so-called monsters that we encounter are all just teddy bears inside. So if the sooner you're able to quickly reach that teddy bear in each person, the sooner you're able to do that, the more so-called points you will get in this game called life, and the more use you're making of your time and energy and awareness that we have been gifted with. Because just like any video game, there's a game over. The game over is also part of this game. The coins run out. So before they run out, maximize the number of points in your video game called life. Great. Wonderful. Any questions or thoughts?
So, Sanjivji, like in life, when we take this spiritual path and when we start looking inside, so we start noticing those monsters that, okay, I'm not a very secure person. Okay, I have these love issues, that I only want to love as much the other person love me. All these things previously I never used to notice, but slowly you start, so it becomes more complicated only. Previously I was only at one road, but now I am on both the roads. Like I go through that monster, then I, it becomes difficult to bring
That to this.
that to this. You see
So
it, but difficult.
difficult to bring that to this.
Exactly, it becomes very
That's
difficult.
what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean they say na, ignorance is bliss. पता ही नहीं था तो क्या, कुछ पता ही नहीं है तो चलते जाओ, आंखें बंद करके जा रहे हो. So ignorance is bliss, but that is a bliss of a different kind, right? That ignorant wala bliss को क्या करेंगे हम? You don't even know you are in bliss, and that is not a bliss. It's just a false. It's a false impression of bliss, or some kind of a what do you call it? It's a like a somebody who's high on alcohol and very happy.
Hmm.
But that is not correct. It's just a very temporary and created kind of a bliss, which can pop at the छोटी सी एक prick आ जाएगी, वो ignorant वाला bliss will will vanish in a second. The smallest thing, and the smallest things keep happening. So that ignorance wala jo bliss hai is a very fragile bliss. At the slightest hint of any kind of challenge, and life keeps on throwing challenges in the form of people or events or things. So at the slightest such challenge, that bliss is just going to vanish. So you're tossed around in the wind of this life. So so well and good. I mean, if that's how you want to continue to live, that's fine. But if you want to
Sanjeev,
have
I want to say, monster.
एक मिनट
While
एक मिनट
looking
Pratya,
at the monster, we
one sec. Let me just finish this thought.
okay.
What I'm saying.
Mm.
So that ignorant wala jo bliss hai, that is not something we want in the final analysis. If you just say, "Oh, I was fine in my life," okay, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying you were or you weren't. But if it was coming out of not knowing myself, out of not knowing the other, or not knowing what this reality is, then my contention would be that bliss is very temporary and is very fragile. You'll find yourself crying half the time, and you'll find yourself in some kind of a high at other times. But it's not one in which you are really in grounded and controlled and really experiencing all that life has to offer. So now if we want to take up this challenge, then yes, it is difficult to bring that to this. And that challenge is what makes games interesting. You create a video game which is easy and it will not even sell 5 copies. The most video games which are most popular, forget about video games, I'm talking about life and everything. If it's not challenging, where's the fun? The challenge is the fun. So a video game where you win every time and win easily, you will play for 5 minutes and put it away. But the one where you struggle and still get just a little, then you struggle some more and get little more, then you struggle some more and get little, that's the fun, that's where the challenge. So this game is also like this, same thing with this understanding. How to bring that to this is the biggest challenge you can ever take on in your life. And that is why it's an open question without answers. We don't know. It is such a big challenge that cannot be a single answer or even a book full of answers. It has to be left as an open question. And just like in the game, I'm using the video game analogy. As you play the game more and more, you get better and better at it. And now faster and faster. The stage that it took you 2 days to reach, now you can reach in 5 minutes. Now you want to next stage and the next stage and the next stage. So yeah, similarly, how to bring that to this is going to be difficult. It's bound to be difficult. It is meant to be difficult. The direct path is a direct path. It is not the easy path. This path which we are talking about of Advaita is a direct path. हम सीधे वहां पहुंच जाते हैं जहां पे where we live. Immediately, instantly, you ask a simple question and you are there. So just because it's easy, living that path is a lifelong challenge. And that challenge is what it makes the juices flow and makes it exciting and makes it all worth it. Without that challenge, it's nothing. And the challenge is not only required, it's a fact. We keep on encountering, after having also whatever understanding I have, I still occasionally come across situations where I just am not able to bring that to this. I don't even know how to bring that to this or what to do to bring that to this. So that's fine. It's a good sign. If you're not finding it easy, it's a good sign. It means you're working. In physics also, work is a function of resistance. Work equals distance times resistance, ऐसा कुछ formula है. If there is no resistance, the physics make work cannot happen. You cannot do work if there is no resistance. So in a frictionless situation, a car moves from point A to point B, there is no work done. I'm talking work as in physics, not work as in calm, but physics, there's no friction. So resistance is very much required. The friction is very much required. The monsters are needed. Thank you, monsters. Great. Pratibha Ben? Mute. Unmute. 1 minute. Unmute.
We don't like the character of monster, but we have to accept it because he is doing the according to his character. So we have to. He is right in from their angle.
Correct. The monster is right from their point of view. If we are able to see the point of view, then the monster stops being a monster.
From that to this. From that to this.
Exactly. Right.
Because
Bringing that
doing its
to this.
job because his character is that's why he's a monster. We have to accept it.
Exactly. Correct. But the magic or the funny or the paradox or the miracle is that the minute you accept the monster stops appearing to you like a monster. That is the fun part. The minute you accept the monster is no longer a monster to you because now you're okay with him.
So that is the monster receive our vibration.
Correct. You call it however you want to. Monster receive your vibration, or because of the acceptance, the monster is no longer a monster. That is the fun part, and you win over that monster.
So our vibration reach to the monster.
Correct. And then it is not a monster. Great. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whatever I understand, I explain you.
Yes, you are right. You got it. Good understanding. You got it. So we have to apply this in our video game called life. Hari Om Tat Sat.